Hurricanes are known to be some of the most deadliest and dangerous storms on the planet. Some hurricanes can cause billion-dollar disasters and can kill thousands of people. Both Hurricane Harvey and Hurricane Irma that hit summer of 2017 have each caused a $7 billion disaster and have killed hundreds of people combined. Now, both hurricanes are some of the most costliest disasters in U.S. history that hit in the same year in the United States. A hurricane's wind field can expand hundreds of miles away from the center of circulation. Some of the strongest hurricanes on Earth can have winds up to 200 miles per hour. But what causes these powerful storms to form? The Atlantic hurricane season starts on June 1st and ends in November 30th, but most hurricanes occur between the months of August, September, and October. Before a hurricane can suddenly form, it must have all of the conditions necessary to allow these monster storms to form. First, it must have warm water above 80 degrees to be exact. Since warmer waters evaporate quicker than cold waters, the water rises to the air quick enough to create and sustain constant thunderstorm activity. Also, warm water vapor meeting up with the cold air in the higher altitudes will create strong instability enough to create those powerful thunderstorms and sustain them for further development of a hurricane. Another condition that is needed for a hurricane to develop is warm, moist air. Warm, moist air allows the water vapor to rise to the colder altitudes to create thunderstorms and further develop the hurricane. Dry air dries up the water vapor before it can rise to the colder altitudes and create thunderstorms, so it won't develop the hurricane at all because the water vapor will dry up before it reaches the colder altitudes to create thunderstorms. Hurricanes also require little outside wind forces blowing against the rotation of the hurricane, called wind shear. Strong wind shear will disrupt the hurricane's rotation, equivalent to putting a finger in front of a spinning fidget spinner to stop it from spinning, just like the drawing shown right here. The final requirement needed for a hurricane to develop is it must have start out as from a pre-existing low pressure system. A hurricane cannot spontaneously pop out on its own. It requires a pre-existing area of low pressure to rise the air and the water vapor to the atmosphere, unlike a high pressure which sinks dry air and limits development of a hurricane. Now, since I clarified the conditions needed for hurricane development, we can begin the time lapse of the development of the process of the hurricane. So the hurricane process usually begins during the late summer right off the African coast, where we have the warm Saharan desert air and then the cool waters and air just south of that. And due to the instability between the warm air and the cold air, it creates a lot of thunderstorm activity in the region. The thunderstorm activity moves out to sea, and as a result, thanks to the cool air forcing the warm air up and to rise, it also brings up that water vapor from the warm waters of the African coast, just off the African coast, which creates a low pressure system, and then at this point it's known as a tropical wave. As soon as a tropical wave is formed off the African coast, the low pressure begins to go over warmer waters, and since the air is rising, and if all the conditions are set for hurricane development, the water vapor and the air continues to rise, and as that warm air rises, it meets up with the colder air in the higher altitudes, which creates strong instability, which will create strong thunderstorms developing up right around the low pressure system. A couple hours later, the tropical wave rises up so much air that as the warm air rises, it cools down, and so much air has risen that it created an area of high pressure just above the cloud tops of the thunderstorms. And since in the laws of physics, high pressure always wants to move towards low pressure, the high pressure tries to move towards a lower pressure down at the surface. Since the air is rising so much and such a fast rate, the high pressure can't really sink down to this low pressure. So it goes outside the hurricane, sinks outside the tropical wave, and then as the high pressure tries to fill in the low pressure area, that creates wind. And as soon as the high pressure area, the cool air, tries to move into the low pressure, it rises again as the warm water and the warm substances of the tropical wave rises air again, and the pattern continues on. This is how tropical depression is formed after winds reach 35 miles per hour or more. And tropical storm is formed after the winds are above 39 miles per hour. Due to the Coriolis effect that usually spins around storm systems, this tropical depression or storm starts to rotate as the Coriolis effect creates a rotation right around the tropical storm. And the pattern continues. We have air rising. So much air has risen that it wants to move towards a lower pressure. As it does that, it creates wind right around the low pressure area. And as it tries to fill in the low pressure area, it warms up and then rises again. And the pattern continues and continues as the warm water continue to bring up that warm air and bring even more higher pressure up. And the pattern continues until winds reach 73 miles per hour or more. It has become a hurricane. As the pattern continues and as air is rising more and more thanks to the hurricane getting stronger, as the high pressure is trying to fill in the low pressure, creating that wind, and due to the Coriolis effect, creating that rotation. Soon, so much air has risen that the high pressure becomes heavier than the air that's rising, and that's how an eye is created. The area of high pressure trying to sink down towards a low pressure, and it's just like the eye you see in your regular everyday hurricane. And even as this high pressure area tries to sink down towards a low pressure, it rises as it warms up again, and the pattern continues as the storm becomes strong enough. And due to the winds rotating around the low pressure, just like a drain, it accelerates as it goes to low pressure. That's why the eye wall of the hurricane is always the strongest.